All right. Yesterday we talked about the difference between the scouts that Moses sent out in this week's Torah portion and the that there were 12 of them, and they went out publicly and they came back publicly, and that they stayed in Israel for 40 days and they scouted out the whole entire place, and they came back and were not successful. They convinced the Jewish people not to go into the land of Israel. It was a tremendous failure. And the scouts, the spies that Joshua sent out, which that's this week's Haftorah, and he only sent out two, and he sent them out in quiet. In fact, the Torah doesn't even tell us who they were. And they stayed just for a couple of hours, something like that, in the land of Israel, and they didn't survey the whole place, just the very edge. And they came back also in secret. They came back in secret, and but they were successful. And the Rebbe listed a few other differences also. So let's see what can we learn from all this. It says the scouts that Moses sent out were that Moses sent out, and also what can we learn from this whole thing? I mean, this is a story that happened like 3,300 years ago or something. The story with Moses happened like 40 years before the story of Joshua, right? Because the spies, the scouts that Moses sent out didn't succeed, so therefore the Jews had to wander 40 years in the desert, and Joshua sent out his spies right before the Jews went into the land of Israel, right after Moses passed away. Okay, so the scouts that Moses sent out were one for each tribe. There were 12 people, each person to a different tribe, right? There was 12 tribes of the Jewish people. The tribe of Reuven and Shimon and Yehuda, Joseph, etc. So there were 12. The Iluba Meraglim, but the spies that Joshua sent out, it says he only sent out two. Oh, no. I skipped. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is, Gimel. Okay, the main explanation is like this. The scouts that Moses sent out and that Joshua sent out were actually different. They did different things. The general job, the general purpose was to settle the land of Israel. But the method was a totally different one. The strategy. They were common because they both had one common purpose: to take over the land of Israel and to settle it. But they were different. Therefore, those of Joshua were in quiet, and there was only two, and they only stayed a short amount of time. And that of Moses was 12, and it was public, and it took 40 days. They wandered it around in Israel. Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference in strategy? We'll see. Baktama. First of all, before we get to that explanation, let's just set a forward. Let's set the stage for this. Sheshiluach HaMeraglim, the sending of the spies, could have been for two purposes. One purpose is kibush, conquering. Anyone who comes to fight against a foreign nation, you send intelligence to know the ways to conquer the places. And when they come back, then usually these spies, they go in to be head of the forces, the head of the army, to tell them what to do. Or at least they inform the generals what should be done. They give these spies, then they spy out the place, and then they give advice, which city to go to first, and which side which side is easier to go in. That's one way of doing it. That's one purpose of sending out scouts. How do you say spies, treachery, to go into the town, the place, and to gather up information on how to conquer the place. Another reason for sending out spies is l'tzorech sheyagidu lehem kol inyan eretz v'smechim b'malata, in order to inform how good the land is, v'yalu bo b'chefetz gadol, so that the armies would go in and conquer the land. Right nowadays, there's not so much of this thing anymore, but it used to be conquering. I think maybe the last ones that really tried to conquer, I think the communists, they tried to conquer. In other words, to inspire the armies of the spoils, the good that they're about to receive, the riches they're going to get by conquering this other nation. Huh? If I tell everybody, let's go and conquer, Baffin Island or something. What's in Baffin Island? Well, there's penguins over there. What else? It's like 10 degrees below zero. And what else? Well, there's penguins. Did I mention the penguins? Yeah, there's penguins. Penguins. And what else? It's 10 degrees below zero. You already said that. That's all there is. We're not going to conquer that place. Who wants to conquer a place like that? But if they say, no, there's riches, there's diamonds, it's plenty, it's warm, it's beautiful, there's fruits, the land is fertile, so, this is a good place to conquer. Excuse me. So there's two reasons to send spies. One is to know the weak points, how to conquer the place. And the other is to know the strong points, to know what's really good about the place and encourage the conquerors, the armies. We can say that Moses sent his scouts, it wasn't to take over the land of Israel. Why? Because God already promised them they're going to get it. Ladat Darachim, to know the ways and the cities and the weak points. Because in the time of Moses, they didn't have to have any encouragement about how to conquer the land, any spies or what is treachery, but mainly just to know how good the land is. The people would be excited to go in. That was the time of Moses. The shiluach hameraglim, but the sending of the spies of Joshua, it wasn't to know how good the land is. They already knew that from Moses. This already knew from Moses that there were big grapes and things like that. The big thing of Joshua was sort of chibush oretz, to know where the weak points are, to know where to attack first, how to attack first, where to attack. Ladata derachim, to know all the cities, etc. In the time of Joshua, they needed this, right? When Moses sent in the spies, they told them how good the land is. In the 40 years, in the meantime, in the interim, as it could be that maybe they changed their strongholds and their strong points, and maybe they have bigger walls or something. So they had to know these things. Okay, so now let's explain this, what it means to us. Even though when the Jewish people requested to send spies, it says the Jewish people requested from Moses. They said, we want to yachpru lanu at the oretz. How do you say, yachpru, spy out. Yachpru means lachfor, to go into the secrets of the land. Yeshiva otanu Dvar, the way that we should go up, and the cities that we should go in, even though they said that. So it seems that it was for the sake of conquering, right? To know strategically what's the weak points of the. But the fact is that when Moses sent out his 12 spies, lo matzinu b'divrei Moshe, we don't find when Moses sending out his scouts that he commanded them liachfor et ha'oretz. He didn't. We see what Moses said in the Torah. It says Moses said to his scouts, go to the land and tell us, are the people strong? Is the land fertile? How many are the cities open? Are the cities closed? The main thing is the land good? Moses didn't tell the scouts when he sent them to try to find where the weak points are, only to find out how good the land is, generally. The reason is, we can say simply, cave and sekivus, or since that the conquering of the land, the Jewish people knew that the conquering of the land of Israel was not in the way of conquering in a way of nature, by means of God. Like Moses said, as B'divrei Tochacha, later on in the book of Deuteronomy, he says, Nishlach anashim lefanenu v'yachpru lanu et ha'oretz, says God was going with you. Right before the Jews went into the land of Israel, so Moses said the book of Deuteronomy, and it begins with Moses reproving the Jewish people, telling them off, so to speak, telling you Jewish people, you are the worst in the world. Look how you've disappointed God. God said he was going to go in front of you and he would fight for you. He would walk in front of, there was a flaming fire that would show you the way that you would go. You don't even have to know the way you would go because God was always with you, since that the cloud of glory was always going in front of you. So Moses was telling the Jewish people, you Jewish people, you refused to go in the land of Israel, and you knew that God was with you. You knew that God was protecting you. Why did you forget God? So if so, Moses and the Jewish people knew that conquering the land of Israel was going to be easy. They knew it was going to be easy. The main reason of sending these scouts, that Moses sent the scouts, was L'Torah Oretz, just to survey the land, to bring back a good picture. Re'item et Oretz, to see the land, to see how good the land is. Tchunotel v'malatel, that the land is a land that's flowing water, and it's not a desert, and it's a beautiful place. It's got everything you want in the land of Israel. Re'item et Oretz mahi, tovai, is the land of Israel, is it good? Is it fat? Is it, how do you say, fertile? Lochem, therefore, Sivam, Moses commanded them, Moses even commanded them to be strong and take the fruits of the land. That he should show off the good fruits, how fat and how good they are. That's why Moses wanted them to bring back the fruits, in order to encourage the Jewish people. No, not only that, also show the people, to see the people that are settling in the land. Not to know to conquer them, easy or not, but to know how good the land is. That the land has a good effect on everyone. The air of Israel that grows big people. That the land of Israel, it's a healthy place. It makes healthy people. Like Rashi said, Yesh Eretz, there's some lands, some countries that they grow big people, and some countries that they grow weak people. That's what it says, HaChazak hu rofeh. Yesh megedelet ochlasian. Some of them, some lands have, how do you say, their populace is, they have a lot of people. There's a lot, it's a place that there's a lot of people that grow. The Yesh mamatas, and some people that have very few, right? The Eskimos, there's very few Eskimos. There are very few Bedouins that are growing in the land, because it's the desert and the whatever is the freezing places. It's not conducive to grow people, to have big populations. So Moses sent his scouts in to let them know, is the land of Israel a healthy place? Are the fruits big? Are the people big? The beer, that's what he said, to let know, are the people strong or are they weak? Like Rashi said, Siman Masar Le'em, im the Parizas, if the people in the land of Israel, they live in open cities, then it means that they're not afraid, that the dwellers there are strong and they rely on their own strength. And if the cities have walls around them, then it shows that they are weak. And this they know the good of the land. If it's a place that grows strong people or weak people, etc. This descent to know the quality of the land was done by in its completion. In other words, the task, the mission that the scouts Moses sent out was accomplished. Moses sent out his scouts in order to praise the land. How do they have like these? What is it? These what are they called? Tourist companies. What are they called? Travel companies. Travel companies. Come and visit Bermuda. Beautiful land, beautiful sky, beautiful sunsets. Look at the fruits here. Well, you have papaya. You ever eat papaya? The best fruit in the world. Look at the people, friendly. Everyone's smiling. Look at everybody smiling, and they all have white teeth, and they're all healthy, and you're going to be healthy too, even if you go there for 1 minute. Come to Bermuda. If says, "Wow, I'm going to go there. I really want to go there." Where are we going, dear? Bermuda. Look at this place. Ooh, I want my teeth to shine like that. So everybody is going to be inspired to come to this place. It's a healthy place. It's a happy place. That's why Moses sent out his spies. Advertising campaign. Bo Ela Oretz, when Moses' scouts came back, they said, "We have come to the land that we have sent, and it's also flowing milk and honey, and these are the fruits." The ilu lo yamakalkalim, and if the scouts, they didn't throw in their own opinions afterwards, and if they wouldn't have added on and said, "But the efeski azam, but the people are too strong." It says the people are very big, but they're fierce. Lonu chalalot, we can't. They're just waiting for people to come in, right? Now they're all bored. They're eating these huge fruits and things like that. If we go there, they're going to eat us up. And all the Jewish people said, "Whoa, I don't want to get eaten up." And they all got scared. But if the spies wouldn't have thrown in their own 2 cents, then the Jews would have said, "Let's go in." There's another sikha from the Rebbe also that explains a little bit differently. But okay, here's the explaining. Then all you called them, the Jewish people would have gone in immediately with great joy. But the spies that Joshua sent in, Lo nishlach lirot tivor, they didn't go in as an advertising campaign. They didn't go in to see how good the land was. Why? This already was done by means of the scouts of Moses. They knew how fertile and wonderful the land is. But the spies that Joshua sent in, it was only to know how to militarily conquer the land. Because the conquering of the land of Israel by means of Joshua, it wasn't so high. God wasn't with them to the same degree as it was with Moses. The Jewish people that went in, they knew that God was already angry with them. They just finished 40 years, but they were like fresh out of jail. The Jewish people finished 40 years, a 40-year sentence of wandering around in the desert. Right? So now they got out of the desert, going to go into the land of Israel. So the Jewish people could say, "Well, we already got a record." The Jewish people already got a record. And not only that, it was a different generation. The people that didn't want to come to the land of Israel, those people all saw the giving of the Torah. They all saw going out of Egypt. Those were people that were of a tremendously high spiritual level. They experienced these amazing things. The people going into the land of Israel, this is a different generation. They didn't experience the giving of the Torah. It was on a lower level than the people who went out of Egypt. Therefore, they were a little bit, apprehensive. And therefore, they had to send in and do things in a natural way. Beginning with sending out these spies, like like anyone who fights battles. I don't know if you know, but for instance, now what's going on now is a perfect example. Israel is now decimating the armies of Iran. I mean, God should help that they do it more. And interestingly enough, it's with the minimum loss of Iranian lives, right? They're not bombing cities. They're not bombing. like our enemies are, like Iran is bombing us, and they're shooting right in the middle of these densely populated cities in Israel. Anyway, but how did they do it? It says that they had spies. Israel had spies all over the place, and that just like they planted with these beepers, they planted in their rockets and in their in their airplanes and in their this and all the other things. That all of a sudden things just blew up, and they had excellent information where to shoot and how to shoot and where to bomb and how to bomb. So there were spies that were sent in, first of all, in order to know how to conquer the land. How to conquer the land. The goal of Israel is not to conquer Iran, the land of Iran, even though that Moshiach, it says, is going to conquer. I have to look at a map again, but God promised Abraham 10 lands, and we only got 7. The Jews never got any more than 7 of those 10 lands. And Mashiach is going to add 3 more, which I think is going to like double or triple the size of Israel, something like that. And part of it is going to be Iran and Iraq, and they'll give it to us, willingly. Gratefully. Okay. So now we can explain, let's see, we're going too far. Okay, so now we can explain the differences between the spies that Moses sent out and the spies that Joshua sent out, or more properly, the scouts that Moses sent out and the spies that Joshua sent out. Remember, we had all these 6 differences between the two. In the time of Moses, God did not command to send spies. That was the first difference. Why? Because the whole main reason to send out these scouts that Moses sent out, like everyone that makes a war, is usually you send out spies in order to know how to conquer the land. And in the time of Moses, the people had no doubt that they could conquer the land. At least before they sent the spies out, the spies came out and told them differently. The only reason Moses sent out his scouts was the Fishabbo Yisrael, the Jewish people requested. They requested, let's send people before us. That the desire of the Jewish people was to send out scouts, I'm sorry, in order to know how good the land is, to increase their desire to take it over. And Moshe, Moshe agreed to this with the hope, tikva, sheyachzru b'hem, that the Jewish people would, rescind the request. Sheyiru she'enu makev. Moses hoped that the Jewish people would cast their doubts away. The Jewish people lacked enthusiasm. They enjoyed being in the desert, and they had doubts about, was the land of Israel really so good? So the Jews, they didn't have any doubts that they could take it over. The doubts were, should we leave the desert and go and live in Israel? Is the land of Israel so good? So they came to Moses and said, send out scouts to see how good the land is. We want to be inspired. They figured that Moses would say, what, you haven't got any faith in God? Then that would sort of really arouse their suspicions. Maybe there's something wrong over here. As soon as Moses said, oh, sure, 100%, you'll see that everything is okay. No problem. He figured that the Jewish people would say, okay, you know what, Moses, you don't have to send them. Sorry, we had our doubts. That's what Moses thought. Excuse me. Moses agreed with this with the hope that the Jewish people would return. They would drop their requests when they saw that. But when Moses saw that the Jewish people were still insisting, so God said, okay, you know what? Let me ask God. If it's really, your request is really a valid one. not to spy out the land of Israel, but just to see how good the land of Israel is. And God said, okay, if you want to send, if you want to send scouts, then send. In other words, Shemitzad HaKodesh Baruch Hu, God said that from my point of view, Ein Tzorach, you don't have to send any scouts out to see if the land of Israel is good. I already told them that the land was very good. Like it says, Eleatchem Ani Mitzrayim, to a good land. God said, I'll send you to a good land. But nevertheless, Moshe said, Sheyesh Lishloach Meraglin, that he should acquiesce to the demands of the people, and they would see themselves, the scouts, these scouts would see how good the land is. Because Moses, he was the shepherd of the Jewish people. He saw the Hirgish and he felt the necessity that they had to hear personally the good of the land of Israel from people that saw it personally. And these people would then tell the Jewish people, and the people would cast all their doubts aside, and they'd say how foolish we were to have any sort of fear or lack of enthusiasm. Let's go. And that's what Moses thought. And therefore it says Joshua was commanded to send the spies. He wouldn't have sent it on his own. But by Moses, he sent the people in on his own. Why? And he sent the people, his 12 people in, not spies, anashim. And he sent them to survey the land, not to spy out the land of Canaan that I gave to you. And there was 12, one for each tribe. Why? That each tribe, because the whole reason Moses sent them out was to convince the people, and each one of the 12 tribes had their own nature. So therefore, each the head of the tribe would come back and convince his people that they knew how valid their leaders were, and they would come back and say, oh, our leaders, Shmuel ben Surishadai, came and said how good it is. Whoa, we're going to listen to him. And the call the 12 tribes, that each one of them would understand the nature, the what is it called? The character of their people, their own traits, right? Like an Italian leader can explain better to the Italian people what's good, and a Jamaican leader can explain that he knows the language of the Jamaicans, etc. So the tribe of Reuven, their leader would explain to them in their language, and the tribe of Shimon would explain in their language, because the whole thing was to arouse the desire of the people to go into the land of Israel. Therefore, he sent 12. When each one of the 12 tribes would hear from their leader how good the land was, then that would convince them. Okay, and I think we're going to stop here. We're going to stop here, and God willing, we'll continue tomorrow. 62, we'll continue this tomorrow, because we started late. I'm sorry. And what can I say? The Iranians are shooting bombs, so we don't get much sleep. We see big miracles. We see a lot of miracles, but we get a little sleep. Okay.